Welcome to the Business Mechanics Show. I'm your host, Vaughn Sigmund, co-founder of Results-Driven Leadership. If you're looking for a way to take your career and business success up a notch, then look no further. We can provide advice and tips from experienced executives who have seen it all before. Not someone who's been trained to train out of a training manual. There's a big difference, folks. Explore RDL training. That's Romeo Delta Lima Training.com today and power up your professional drive with valuable knowledge, skills, and tools to make it big. No matter if you're just getting started or have been leading a company for decades, we can sure help you out. So let's get down to the nuts and bolts of making your career and business more successful by talking about today's topic is how do you spot the leadership traits of an employee? I love that question. This was something that just came to my mind a couple of weeks ago. And I've been thinking about it and working on it and going through some items and doing some research. And I think now I've come up with 7 that I feel like are 7 key, very observable. You can spot these from a mile away, but I think I'm going to share with you today ways to spot them that you haven't thought about before. But there's 7 key observable traits you need to look for in order to determine if someone on your team has the potential to be a leader. Do you know how to spot? Do you know how to spot these leaders? Do you know what these traits are? Where we're going to go over these 7 signs that someone has what it takes to be a leader. So whether you're looking to become a leader yourself, you can pick up on a bunch of tips in this show on these traits today, or you're just trying to understand how to spot it from your employees better. The show's all for you. Let me state right off the bat, we all believe this here at Results Driven Leadership. Leadership is trainable. Leadership traits are not limited to just managers or someone who's in some authority within the organization. And I want to talk to you today and discuss some of these traits in a pretty good level of detail that they're exhibiting them. I want you to be able to spot them and start identifying these folks for your next management positions. Almost every company I go into, one of the first questions I ask is, who's your replacement? Who's going to replace you? And not surprisingly, 95% of the time, they don't have a clue. They have not identified that person that will be their replacement, their next level. Who's going to help you grow this company, grow you? And if something were to happen to you, like a promotion, who's going to replace you? Or something more dismal to happen to you, who's going to replace you? Let's not think about that. So that's what the topic is today. But before I dive into all these great traits and tips, let me also share with you what we all at Results Driven Leadership and all of our clients believe wholeheartedly in is the essential tool for determining the ability of anyone in your organization, including you, to be a leader. And that's the DISC assessment. And in case you're unfamiliar with a DISC assessment, it's a tool that helps you understand your and your employees' strengths and weaknesses in the workplace. It's based on 4 DISC personality types, which are dominance, influence, steadiness, and compliance. All of that, if you're not familiar with DISC, makes no sense to you until after you get this 67-page assessment back. It measures how a person will respond to a variety of situations by answering just a few, like 32, 34 questions. It takes you about 15 minutes. And the results of this DISC assessment will help a person find out if you're compatible with your current job or if it's time for a career change. Are you in the right role or not? And it can also, and this is the most valuable part of the tool, it can help you improve your relationship with your coworkers and your clients. And best of all, because you're a listener of the Business Mechanic Show, you can try out a disc assessment for yourself, and it's absolutely free, gratis. And I put a link in the show notes for you to use that to take yours right now. It's all complimentary, no obligation. Take it 15 minutes or less. And the other nice thing we do for you, and love to do it, is we include a free 1-hour consultation with one of our DISC experts who will help you gain a complete understanding of not only the report, but more importantly, how to use it to ignite your career growth. So take advantage of that. You will love it. All of our clients have loved it. We've sent out hundreds of these DISC assessments in the over the past few months. People absolutely are getting a ton of information and direction out of those. Take advantage of it for yourself now. So let's get started. Let's jump into how to spot the traits of employees who have leadership skills. The first one, and these are not in any particular order. They're all important. To me, there's not an ascension or descension from them. They just are. They're just all 7. Does anybody have to have all of them? Well, that's a real nice to have, but it's not a must have. If they have most of them, well, you got a leader in your future. You've got somebody you can work with who can help grow the organization and help you look like a superstar. So the first one, initiative. That's a no-brainer, right? So, but let's make sure we're on the same page what initiative means. Taking the lead on projects and tasks, even without being asked or told to do so. So, you understand what initiative is? Let me show you some of the tips. Let me share with you some of the tips on how to spot that. So you want to look for employees who are always coming up with solutions to problems. They're coming to you with solutions. Not coming to you with problems, they're coming to you with solutions. Big difference. You want to look for employees who have ideas and ideas that they're willing to share, even if it's not in their area of responsibility. They're curious, they're driven, they're wanting to improve things. That's a great sign of initiative. You want to spot in employees the ones who take initiative in their areas of responsibility, of course, and are willing to go above and beyond. That's the key part. Willing to go above and beyond what is expected of them. They're going to stay late. They're going to come in early. They're not going to complain about any of that. They'll come in on the weekends. They're driven to get things done. Now, a word of warning on your employees who show initiative. When you're a manager, these are your favorite employees, by the way. You absolutely love these folks. And you will have the propensity to often feel like you have to be everywhere at once. So you know that. You're a busy manager and you're trying to keep up with the demands of your employees. But also with the constant stream of new projects coming in from above, it's easy to start looking for things to hand off to people. And guess who you hand it off to? This person. It's easy to think that the best way to do this is by handing it off to the person who you know is going to get it done right. Better known as your best employees or employee, the ones who are always willing to take on more work, who never complain, never seem to stress under the workload, and who always seem to get things done on time, if not early. However, and this is the warning, all this to say this: when you overwork your best employees, which is going to be your propensity because they're the ones that get stuff done, you're going to reach a point where you're doing them and yourself a disservice. Because when you overwork an employee, it could lead them down a path of burnout. And this means instead of being able to focus on they're doing a job well, they're constantly stressed out by all the extra tasks they're taking on. And that stress can take its toll on their performance. And they might start making mistakes or getting sick more often. And they're feeling this stress. They may lose motivation. You may start seeing a change in their behaviors where they work less, they're less engaged. Their work quality may start dropping. You know you've overstepped the line at that point. When this happens, this is the real downside of it, is they may start looking for opportunities elsewhere, which means that not only will you lose that talented employee, but you'll have to also go through the damn process of hiring someone new, which sucks. And they're not going to be this employee. So be careful with that part. Very careful. Second, number 2, empathy. This is one I struggled with a little bit, whether to include it or not. And as I started thinking about it and doing a little research, I said, yeah, this one's important. Let me explain. Empathy, meaning understanding and caring about the experiences and perspectives of others. They care about others. And when you look at great leaders, they're servant leaders. They're there to serve their employees, take care of their employees, solve problems for employees, show that they care about employees. That connection of care and safety is essential to a good employee, employer, boss, direct report relationship. And let me just ask you this. Have you ever hired someone who seemed like the perfect fit only to realize later they weren't a good fit at all? It's hard to tell whether somebody's going to be a good fit or not. That goes back to the DISC profile, by the way. You can filter that out with a DISC profile. But it's hard to tell in an interview whether someone has or has not have. That was horrible English, by the way. Doesn't have. How about that? Someone has empathy prior to hiring them. But let me tell you, empathy is not only good for a leadership quality, it's just great to have as an employee. And if you want to avoid making the mistake of hiring somebody that lacks this skill, this trait, let me share some tips on how you spot your employees or even potential candidates who have a lot of empathy. They're right there in front of you. Hopefully. They listen closely. They make eye contact during conversations with you and with others. These are the folks I love. These people drive some bosses crazy. I freaking love these people. The ones that ask questions. They're constantly asking about what their manager is saying rather than just nodding along. They want to understand what you're doing, what you're instructing, what the mission is, so they fully understand it. They offer solutions, just like the person with initiative. They're going to bring in, if they feel comfortable sharing information with you, they have a safe environment, they're going to offer some solutions and their ideas. When something goes wrong at work, they're going to have a solution rather than just complaining about it. And to me, after giving it careful thought, empathy is one of the most important skills for a leader to have. And I believe it's not only necessary for your own personal growth, but also for the growth of your team. And having empathy for others, whether it's you or someone who works with you, that allows you to understand them better, the employees, your direct reports, and make decisions that are of a servant quality, a servant leadership quality that benefits everyone, not just you. That's sometimes putting employees in front of profits. That's not always a popular topic, but it's something that great leaders do. Like in Simon Sinek's book, Leaders Eat Last. And he uses the example of in the Marines. that when you go to the mess hall at lunch or dinner time, enlisted men and women line up first in line to get food. The leaders go to the back of the line, because in the Marines, that's how you show leadership. You're serving the people who are serving you. You're taking care of them. It's more important that they're fed than it is that you're fed. That's empathy. Bet you didn't think about it like that. Number 3, communication. This seems clear to a lot of people, but let me just give you a quick example or a quick definition of it. Someone who is able to articulate their ideas clearly and effectively and listens well to others. They actively listen with others. They'll ask questions. They'll ask for clarification. They'll probe, but they're listening. And it goes without saying that good communication is a key skill for any manager. But how do you know? How do you know if your employees are good communicators? Well, let me give you some tips. Look at your employees' emails. If they're clear, concise, that's a really good sign they have good communication skills. Or do you look at it and say, oh my God, who wrote this? Not good communication skills. Ask them to prepare a presentation. A presentation maybe for their team about something related to their job responsibility, a change in policy or a change in process or a new tool we're using. Have them create that presentation to the team. And if they can clearly explain that task to the rest of their team, you know they're a good communicator. If they can take complex ideas, thoughts, and situations and turn it into simple, easy to understand things, that's a great communicator. Another way is to ask for feedback. Feedback from those who work with this person, especially somebody who works closely with them. And if people say they're easy to work with, or they always understand what others need from them, then this employee has good communication skills. It's an essential skill for managers to have, like I said previously. And it allows you, and if you're looking at this person to move ahead into a management role sometime in the future, for them to be an effective leader, because it allows you to recognize how your team members are feeling and be able to respond accordingly, understand employees' needs and wants from their jobs, maybe about their working environment, and also helps the employees understand what you need from them as their manager. It identifies problems before they become major issues, so they're proactive versus reactive. Things that might affect productivity or morale, they see it coming and they communicate that with you. They can be very persuasive. They're that person in the room that when maybe you or they are presenting ideas, that they have a true impact and persuasion on the group that they're speaking with. And don't forget that every good communicator is a good listener. Everyone knows the clear, objective goal, whatever it is measuring the progress towards the mission. And they understand their role is achievable, they're positive, they can be realistic with things, they have a sense of urgency. It's all very important when it comes to communication. Number 4, problem solvers. God, we love our problem solvers, those who can identify problems and come to you with solutions without waiting for someone else to do it. That goes back to initiative a little bit, doesn't it? And in order to spot this in someone, to see if they have this problem-solving skill, when they come to you, can they present the problem clearly? Do they seem to be able to think on their feet, or are they constantly having to come to you for answers? Do they have confidence to be able to solve their own problems? Are they able to identify the most important parts of a problem and focus on them? Do they ask questions that helps them understand what's going on? And most importantly, do they solve their own problems without the need of coming to you? Problem solving is a critical leadership skill, both for you to work on and certainly be able to spot in a potential leader. Absolutely cannot go, whether you're the CEO of a company or a manager. Your ability to problem solve is either going to make you or break you. It's unbelievable how important this is and how few people really have it. Because if you're not able to see problems as they arise or are unable to find solutions, well, you're going to struggle being an effective leader. So how do you improve problem-solving skills? Here are some tips. Be prepared, first of all. Understand what your resources are. What's in the process manual? What's the policy or procedure? What are some of the resources that are available, whether it's the employee handbook, other people who have knowledge within the organization, YouTube, podcasts. That's a good one. The Business Mechanic has a lot of solutions. Places they can easily find information when needed. They need to be able to go tap into these resources easily. And there's someone that asks questions. You can't assume you already know everything about a problem or a solution. You've got to ask for information so you have a clear understanding. And keeping in mind that you have to have an open mind and make sure you're not creating any misplaced biases on the solution. Slow it down. Ask questions, get information, and make sure you're not going into it with a hard-ass head and your mind already made up how to solve it, because there may be a better way or there may be an enhanced way to solve the problem. If you research it a little bit, talk about it a little bit. If it's not a problem like the house is on fire, that's an easily solved problem. Get the hell out. So, and also around bias, this is one of my favorite topics. Listen to the podcast on difficult conversations to talk about these biases, that talks about these biases and how to avoid them and go into a conversation properly. But if it's a people problem, that's where you want to avoid having a predetermined perspective on things, perception on things, because that's going to hurt you at some point. You want to get all the information you can so that you can look at all the possible solutions. You have all the information you need, and then be flexible with it. And it's okay to, don't be afraid to change your mind and change your views on things if it's necessary. But another part of problem solving is you've got to get to the root cause. You want to avoid putting Band-Aids on the symptoms of a problem just for a quick fix. Let's just patch it and move on. Those patches wear out and the problem's still there. Think about where that problem is coming from and fix that. That's great leadership. And I invite you to go listen to my podcast that's called Truth Behind Fixing Business Problem. And it's a parable that I've used for years and years and years called Babies Down the River. And if you go listen to that podcast on Babies Down the River or the truth behind fixing business problems, you'll achieve a deeper understanding for fixing problems, how to look at problems and understand how to go find the root cause. I put a link in the show notes for you to go listen to that podcast so you don't have to do a search on it. Now, that's 4 of them. I want to take a quick pause here. And before I go to number 5, I want to share with you the Results-Driven Leadership Online Management Training Program. It's self-paced. You can take all the courses from anywhere You can take it from the beach, you can take it from the train, you can take it from the car. Well, be careful taking it from the car because it's video courses. Take it from your office, take it from your living room. 14 video courses, all delivered by real executives. And it's going to provide you with the essential knowledge, skills, and tools you need to be a confident and successful manager and leader. And let's face it, most of you are promoted into the role of manager with little or no formal training on how to be a manager. You were likely exceptional with a ton of knowledge in your old role. You were a great employee. You may be this employee we're talking about today. Now you're a manager. And if you're like the majority of managers out there who are using a trial and error approach to being successful in management, invest the $47 a month and get the knowledge you need to be a rock star manager. And again, there's a link in the show notes where you can sign up instantly. There's no contract, no long-term commitment. Use that link to check it out. Now let's move on to number 5, which is teamwork. Collaborating effectively with others and being able to build strong relationships with their colleagues. Good teamwork skills are another essential for employees to succeed in the workplace, not only as employees, but certainly if they move to manager. Now, here are some signs. Here are some ways to spot good teamwork. That's the person who's always willing to help others and make them feel comfortable. They're the go-to person for not just you, but for other employees. They don't get angry. They're even keeled. They don't show their frustration easily. They understand how to resolve conflict without having to resort to yelling or aggressive behavior. They're the steady Eddie. They're the calm in the storm sometimes. And they take responsibility for their mistakes. They're not the one that keeps blaming and externalizing others for things that they've done or not done. Even if they're not directly responsible for the mistake. They use the word we a lot, these great teamwork people. And the fact that they use we, they're willing to serve, they're willing to help, this all shows that they personally have placed a high value on teamwork and communication. Some of these all blend together. But God, you know, this was beat into me as a child. Not literally, but it was made very important to me by my raising that you take ownership for your actions and decisions, and you're accountable for those results. You own your crap. Own your mistakes. And good teamwork skills are essential to being a good leader. Let me give you an example of this. I'm going to refer back because I just finished reading it for the second time. Leaders Eat Last, Simon Sinek. And he tells the story of how he was visiting a colonel, Marine colonel at Quantico. And he gets to the colonel's office, and unlike most Marine authorities, this colonel ran about 30 minutes late for the meeting. And finally he shows up and he apologizes to Simon. And Simon says, no problem, no problem. And the colonel says to him, yeah, I had to deal with a problem Marine. And Simon, being curious, says, well, do you mind if I ask what was the problem? And the colonel shares with him that, well, we had a Marine that fell asleep while he was on watch. Simon was a little taken back. Man, are the Marines that hard? And if I fall asleep on watch, I'm thrown out of the Marines? And the colonel said, no, 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 no. We caught him falling asleep and then he denied it. He did not tell the truth about falling asleep. He didn't own his mistake. And we gave him multiple chances to tell us that he'd fallen asleep. And not until we showed him proof that he was asleep on watch did he admit that he'd fallen asleep. We can't have that character of an individual on our team. So we released him. So you can get fired from the Marines, by the way. And the colonel also shared that, listen, we had another Marine recently that fell asleep. And when we confronted him with it, he admitted it right away and assured us it would never happen again. And that Marine is still a Marine, because that's the character we're looking for. That's a good team member who owns their responsibilities. That's a good leader. And when it comes to teamwork skills, it's all about having the ability to work well with others, help others succeed. That's what a great leader does, helps others succeed. They find ways to help the team achieve their goals with ease, find ways to get more success, provide guidance and advice to drive success to a high level, all without being asked. You know, all boats rise with the tide. Think about that. All boats rise with the tide. And when you've got somebody that is pumping the water into the bay, you're going to be making out. That's who you're looking for. Number 6, adaptability. Someone that's able to change and evolve as the organization needs to change. You know, change management is an entire industry of consultations or consulting, I guess. It's hard for many people to change. You know, over 70% of the population has a propensity to hate change. So you have to approach change in a certain way to get people bought into it and willing to make these changes. And when you've got somebody that is naturally gifted with adaptability, man, that's somebody you want to be able to move up the ladder. But how do you spot them? Well, do they have experience with change? Have they been working for companies that have ever either been really successful and growing, or companies that have been on the downward slope? Both ways are change. What's the variety of their experience? The variety of working in maybe different companies or environments or even industries. Do you see, you know, when you're interviewing somebody, have they moved to multiple roles within the organization? Did they start at one level and move up 3 or 4 levels while they were there? That's somebody that's adaptable. Do they have experience working in different environments? Can they tell you about different cultures and pressures and areas that created maybe stress for them from time to time? What's their experience like? How did they adapt to that? Have they ever worked in a situation where the requirements were unclear? Could they figure things out on their own? This is something that's very frustrating to many leaders out there, is they have people on their team that can't just figure things out. They have to be told everything that has to be done and how to do it. Somebody that's adaptable is able to figure it out themselves. Are they independent? Are they able to work on their own? Or is it somebody that's constantly having to be supervised? You know, do you have to keep your boot up their butt to keep them moving? And are they constantly just throwing up their hands, saying, I don't know how to do it, I don't know how to do it? That's not being adaptable. And so, of course, you have to have this adaptability to be a good leader. You got to stay on top of current trends and changes and be able to move as the needs require. That you as a leader need to anticipate trends and changes, which, oh my God, over the past couple of years, have we seen a few trends and changes come along? And making sure you're always looking at your perspective, adjusting your perspective when necessary, because things change and sometimes very quickly. If you're not prepared and willing and able, it can throw your leadership style off and affect your work, your ability to lead effectively in a negative way. And number 7, integrity. Again, duh. They have to be honest. They have to be honest and transparent with you, with the people they work with. They've got to set a positive example for others to follow. And it's, again, arguably, it probably is one of the most important traits for someone to have to be considered to be a manager or a leader. It's a true asset of being truly honest, and that this honesty and integrity will help them build trust, not only with you, but for all of those who surround them. It helps build rapport, good relationships. How do you spot it? Again, are they honest? Are they transparent? And when they make a mistake, do they admit it? Do they take responsibility for things? Do they show good judgment? And even when they show bad judgment, do they learn from that? Do they admit it and learn from that? Do they have high ethical standards, or do you hear from them ways to shortcut or maybe bend the rules? And sure, there's situational ethics that occur out there. Those are challenges we all face as leaders. But people with ethics make sure they do the right thing when nobody's looking. And also, there's somebody, an honest person, is not afraid to admit mistakes. And I got to tell you, I didn't talk about this much previously, but somewhere in one of these 7 is a good leader, somebody that's willing to make mistakes and learn from them. A person's integrity is the foundation of their character, their credibility. If somebody gets moved into management, if you promote somebody that has questionable integrity, they will never be followed, because people are always questioning whether this is the right person to follow. Are they telling me the truth? Are they reliable? Can I tell them something without them going behind my back? Do they keep their word? Do they say what they're going to do, or do what they say they're going to do? Which is what drives many employees nuts and erodes the leadership effectiveness of so many managers, is they don't friggin' follow through. Somebody that does what they say they're going to do 100% of the time. There's somebody that's dependable, consistent, predictable. They don't go behind your back or others' backs and discuss them in a derogatory way. Because when you have integrity, others know they can trust you to do what is right, what is best for them and not you. They're more about others and not about themselves. You can count on them. So, in conclusion, leadership traits are not limited to those in just formal management positions. You don't have to be an authority in the organization in order to be a leader. And you don't even have to necessarily be promoting these people. If you're working in an organization that's not growing management, I get it. That happens. There's a lot of stable companies out there that aren't going to grow leadership. But my God, if I'm hiring people, I got to count on somebody to fill in or help out, I want to be able to spot these, because this is my go-to person. But most important, I'm hoping you're in a career that's growing, and I hope your company's growing, because if you're growing, the company should be growing. And you're going to need people to grow with you. And employees at all levels can exhibit leadership traits. And I hope after listening to this podcast today, you can spot initiative, empathy, communication, problem solving, teamwork, adaptability, and integrity. Because demonstrating these traits, they're likely to contribute to a positive and productive work environment and grow with you. They're your future managers. And listen, if you're a business owner, if you're an executive, a CEO of a company, and I know many of you are listening to this podcast, you need to find a way to promote these traits within your organization. This needs to be a cultural norm, an expectation, a standard by which we operate around here. Grow your people, and they'll help you grow your company. That's it for today. Now, by the way, I want to tell you this. I'm going to post this as a blog, probably Thursday. You don't know what day this is. Sorry. Probably by the 10th or 11th of February, 2023. It'll be on our website, rdltraining.com, Romeo Delta Lima training.com. Navigate to the articles page to see the blog, and it's going to lay all this out for you. So if you're listening to this while you're walking or driving the car, go to the blog in a few days and it's all written out for you. So let's sign off for today. Please take note of the things I share with you today and start tuning in your observations to your team to see who your next leader is going to be. And understand that these traits can be demonstrated by employees, peers, all levels within the organization. And when you have more people demonstrating these traits than less, man, have you got a rocking company, because it's going to be positive and productive. And I've never met a company yet that was able to grow successfully in an infinite game without this as a core value within the organization. So thank you for listening today. And we are absolutely going to talk to you guys again in the very near future.